Michael, you have a great article up on VSiN.com right now breaking down the Miami Dolphins with the question, how good are the Miami Dolphins? And with that, we've seen some good social media traffic specifically looking at one line. So I'm going to read it to you. Read and react here. Miami is a solid team, but not a 70-point team, nor are they good enough on defense to be invincible, which I don't think anybody can really argue with, but they are. So go ahead, Michael.
Well, I mean, look, everybody wants to crown a champion in September. I think what McDaniels has done offensively, what he has created with this outside zone run play to allow the pocket to be clean for Tua, who struggles if anybody's in front of him. I mean, let's face it. If he's got people in front of him, it's a problem. But if he doesn't, it's pretty good. And these receivers are great. I mean, let's face it. Tyreek Hill should be the MVP of the league. I mean, he tilts the field. Nobody can cover him. Nobody can run with him. It goes on and on. So for me, what I was trying to point out in the column is, look, they're really good. They've changed offensively. They've done some things. I thought they would be better defensively. Now, they lose their best corner, obviously Jalen Ramsey. Xavier Howard has been penalized 4 times already this year for pass interference, and more's coming. And their pass rush, Van Winkle has been able to get more pressure than actually Bradley Chubb, who's somewhat unknown. I mean, he is nowhere to be found. So people can move the football on him. The problem is, like Philadelphia last year, when you play from in front all the time, it's hard. It's hard for the opponent to really make plays. And so I think, to me, that's kind of where I was coming from this. And, people, they want you to tell them how good they are all the time, right? They want you to say, oh, my God, this is great. But the reality of it is not everybody is great.
Yeah, and I think we saw especially that first game of the season that their defense isn't invincible, and probably missing the fact that you can't have a guy like Jalen Ramsey out there on the field with you, with him getting injured before the season even started. But as for the comment about the offense not being a 70-point team, can we all just remember for a second, yes, this offense is masterful. And we were talking in the commercial break about how Mike McDaniels put the Roo back in Guru with the run game and what they've been able to do. But for as good as they are, that 70-point performance was the most points in a game since, 66 as we go back historically. So that's, of course, they're not a 70-point team. No one is. They're a very, very good offense. One point that you made there, you said that Tyreek Hill should be the MVP. Is that a St. Jude's play, knowing that there's never been a wide receiver that's won it? He's sitting 50-1 right now, and we know that, Cooper Kupp won a Triple Crown a couple years ago, and he didn't end up winning the MVP. He was Offensive Player of the Year, but didn't get this honor. How do you view it? Is it a St. Jude's play?
Well, we should just call it the quarterback award then, if we don't, because the guy changes the game. He truly changes the game. Cooper Kupp didn't change the game. He executed the game. It's the difference. This guy changed the game. You take this guy out. If this guy's out for 2 weeks with a concussion, this offense isn't going to be the same look. It's just not. No. Defenses are going to play you differently. The run game's going to get harder. Nobody's worried about getting the ball thrown. You think people are going to the stadium worried about Barrios beating them? Of course they're not. They're worried about this guy. He tilts the field. Here's the thing that's funny. You try to give a team a compliment. A team that basically could easily be 2-1, Stormy. Think about it. They could be 2-1. If the Chargers execute a 2-minute drive at the end of that game and kick a field goal, they're going to win the game, right? They're going to win that game. They were a 3-point dog in Los Angeles. Remember that? I do, because I liked Miami in the game in the 3. But I thought it was headed for a push, or at least an overtime, because I thought they would come down and score. They moved the ball the whole day. So, look, that one game, let's not overreact. I think they're great. But I do know Belichick held them to 24 points. Mm-hmm. And they're going to go against an offense that might be able to score more than 24 points. So, they want to be able to get challenged. I think it'll be a great lesson. Now, look, if they win in Buffalo this weekend, you might as well just get prepared for giving them the Super Bowl. Do you know what Monday morning is going to be like?
As if the odds haven't already come down enough on the Miami Dolphins to win a Super Bowl. Absolutely. And so, especially given, I think, the historic context and how many of these matchups the Dolphins have lost to the Bills, I think that all adds into it too. Buffalo has won 9 of the last 10 meetings in this set. Tua is only 1-4, 0-3 in Orchard Park in this set. We do know how close, obviously, all three matchups were last season. All were decided by a field goal or fewer. So I think this spread is probably right on par with where you would imagine it to be. But let's talk about a little bit this game, Michael, and the way that Buffalo's defense has performed lately. Last week, granted, it's against a Commanders team that hasn't looked incredible. They had 9 sacks on the quarterback. They had 4 interceptions. Yeah. A lot of that was situational. How do you think that defense is going to stack up with the scheme and creativity of Miami's offense?
Well, I think this. I think that the Miami, when they play from in front and they control the pace of the game like they have, they're very dangerous. But if they're going to you're going to have to match them. You're not going to win this game 17-13. And Buffalo's execution offensively has been really good. And if you go back to 2020 when Buffalo played Denver, when Vic Fangio was the head coach of the Broncos, I mean, Buffalo had 500-plus yards of offense against a Vic scheme. So they have an idea about how to attack Vic. Now, I think Buffalo has played really good offensively the last 2 weeks. And their offensive line will get challenged this week, even though they're playing at home. And Josh Allen will get challenged because I think what Josh Allen has to do is continue to play within the framework of their team. Continue to be the guy who distributes the ball. Continue to be the point guard. And if he does that, they're going to be a really good team and they can match points. And it's going to come down to, like most football games, the fourth quarter and who's turning the ball over. And that's really what it is. But, Miami's not going to beat Buffalo by 70. I hate to break the news to you.
And to your point, Josh Allen has looked significantly different than he did that opening game where you had the 4 turnovers and you were wondering, what are we getting ourselves into? And that just goes to show the overreaction that we have to week 1 sometimes, because the way that team has performed as a cumulative group the last 2 weeks has been very impressive. I was just looking at the odds movement from Miami, Michael, 25-1 to start the season to win the Super Bowl, then 12-1. Now we see 9-1. They're an odds on -160 favorite to win the division right now as the only 3-0 team, but an odds on number for Miami already.
And it's get ready to go down. Get ready to go down. There's 2 things that are going to happen on Monday. It's going way down, or people are going to we're going to get a see, I told you so. Right? We're going to get see, I told you so. Right? And that's going to be the issue. But I think really when you look at this, when you look at this game, this will be a back and forth. And McDermott's a really good defensive coordinator. In 3 games against Tyreek Hill, he's held him to 18 catches for 170 yards. I think the key to this game is James Cook, because I think you've got to be able to run the ball like the Chargers did against them. You got to eat some of this clock up, and you've got to be really good red zone. Like the Chargers exchanged a couple touches for field goals instead of had touchdowns. That really helped. But they moved the ball on them, and I think Buffalo will move the ball on them because they're going to attack this secondary. Because with Howard being their best corner, he's not good enough to be the best corner. Like they're not going to be able to take Diggs out of the game.
I agree. So with that, though, when you look at this total and see the number at 54, does that make you think that like both teams are going to be able to get at least some of theirs offensively to go over that number? I know it's a high total, highest on the board this week. What do you think about it?
I mean, when you're looking at a 30-24 game, that's 54. Could this be 31-27? Yeah, I think it could be. But again, I think if you're playing this team the right way, you got to say, look, we got to get possessions have to come down. It's got to be a 10-possession game, 9 possessions. You want those possessions, and if you're 9-possession game, you're probably looking at an under.
The very last sentence that you had in your article this week was talking about this matchup and said, truly, if they do win this game, I know we were joking about how much the number will come down, but they will be finally considered a true contender with the Kansas City Chiefs for the AFC. And I think that's a really telling point that we're this early in the season and there are already these subtle hints about teams that if they stay healthy, it's that obvious that they could really take the step that they are.
Go to VSiN.com/subscribe to become a VSiN Pro subscriber today.